Hello and welcome to another episode of Nakoto Building Arts. I'm your host, Nakoto, and today I'd like to welcome my special guest, Kevin Bergeron. He is an associate principal at William Rawn Associates Architects based in Boston, Massachusetts. William Rawn Associates Architects is a nationally recognized architectural firm formed in 1983 and has completed a large number of projects ranging from complex urban buildings to college campuses, from performing arts facilities to affordable housing. Some of their notable projects include the 1,200-seat Seiji Ozawa Hall for the Boston Symphony Orchestra at Tanglewood, named by Leo Beranek Concert Hall and Opera House's book as one of the best concert halls in the United States in terms of acoustics. They've also worked on the Rubenstein Art Center at Duke University, the Harvard Business School, Claremont Hall, and Berklee College of Music in Boston, along with many other projects. In the past 20 years, the firm has won over 250 plus national, regional, city, and state AIA awards and other design awards. And Kevin has been an integral part at achieving such great honors. Kevin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Dakota. Appreciate you inviting us to join you here.
Thanks for joining me. Now, just to go back, I first met you at the first project as a cost consultant. As many of my viewers know, I'm a cost consulting in performing arts centers and cultural arts. I met you on a project you designed for the Duke University, the Rubens project. And that was the first time I met you, and subsequently worked with you on the Penn State Recital Hall and the current project, VCU, the Virginia Commonwealth University Arts and Innovation Academic Building. So I have some experience working with you and getting to know you. So, I told you before on this podcast that I started, I want to just allow the viewers to hear from the people who plan these buildings. We attend these buildings, and there's such an integral part of the community, such an integral part of the college campuses. And and we see the art and we see the performances, but we don't hear a lot from the people who actually take these visions and make it into a reality. So you are one of those people. So we just want to hear more from you.
Great, and let me just say these are very, very rewarding buildings to be a part of as an architect. The kind of joy that you get from seeing your work come to life, through performance is amazing, and the work that we do together, Nakoto, kind of planning early around budget is why they get built. So I would kind of love to talk about the process kind of more broadly, but also specifically about our collaboration together and how important that is to project success.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. So before we get into specifics, and I'd like to at some point just bring up a couple of those projects, and maybe you could talk through some of them. But before we go into that, how did it start? How did you get in architecture? Where are you from? Where are you located now?
Well, our office is in downtown Boston, and I live nearby, about a 7-mile bike ride away, which is how I get into the office. My wife Lisa is also an architect. We met in school, and she has her own practice. So we try very hard with our 2 kids to talk about things other than buildings.
Now so she has her own practice. You've been working with Ron for what, 20 something years?
25 years or so.
25 years. Wow, 25 years. And so you've seen all the changes and all the growth. But now, why was there ever opportunity or a time that you wanted to join with your wife, or was it better to just keep it separate?
We've kind of felt ever since we got married and started our careers, that we wanted to be, working at different. She's worked at a number of big firms in Boston
Okay.
over the years, and we just always felt strategically that it was kind of wise for us to have our own thing.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So now, are you originally from Boston or?
I am originally, yeah.
Oh, really?
I went to school outside of Washington, D.C. at the University of Maryland, and worked in Washington for about 3 years before moving back to Massachusetts.
So with architecture, that's I always said if I had a different choice in career, if I could go back, I think I would want to be an architect. I don't know. It fascinates me. I know it's a lot of hard work. I remember being in college and I was in the construction management school portion of the school, and then you see the architectural school students staying up so late, all
Right.
it's just like
You have to
so
be committed.
grueling.
You have to be committed,
Grueling
and
process.
there's a lot of different paths to
Yeah.
into the profession. A
Mhm.
number of the teammates that I work with, some of them were mathematicians. First, my colleague Cliff was an archaeologist in college, and so I had a different tact. Somehow, I knew I wanted to be an architect when I was like 7 years old, and instead of practicing my skills on the wiffle ball,
Yeah, yeah,
field, I was like up drawing and designing buildings, and so
yeah,
I don't think there was any stopping me or any keeping me away from this field, but
yeah, yeah.
glad I did it, because there's it's a lot of effort, a lot of hard work, a lot of training, but ultimately, where else do you get to sort of we often in a look we work in physical model a lot
Mhm.
during the design process, and so some days we're in the studio uh kind of talking together about serious issues, but essentially playing with blocks. um and what other profession has
Yeah,
that kind of blend of kind of technical rigor and creativity?
you said you thought about it ever since you were 7 years old, and that is such a benefit to if you're a kid and you already know what you want to do at that young of age. I always encourage parents or children, if you already know what you want to do, just pursue it.
Right.
Because most times kids, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. At one point I wanted to be a doctor, a pharmacist, and I somehow ended up in construction. But
Right. Right.
but so that's a definitely advantage if you already knew, what you wanted to do at such a young age. That's
Right.
great.
Right. I mean, there's people out there that'll tell you to follow your passions. There's other people out there that say, your whatever you jump into and do will become a passion once you become an expert at it. And I'm sure both of those
Yeah.
avenues
Yeah.
are true. I happen to to follow my passion.
Yeah, yeah. Now, do you have any siblings or anybody else in the field with you, or just you're the only
No,
architect?
I have a sister in Atlanta that is a nurse, and I have a brother up in Massachusetts here that is a mechanical engineer. I
Okay.
should say my mother was a nurse, and my father is a nuclear engineer.
Nuclear engineer. Wow.
So my first site visit,
Yeah.
uh, official construction site visit, was a nuclear power plant under construction.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. It had to be kind of exciting just to see as a kid. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, the inside of the reactor shell as it's under
Yeah,
construction is
yeah,
amazing. I
yeah.
still remember that. I mean, that was probably back in the 70s or early 80s.
Did you have to wear a suit or anything to protect from
Oh no,
injuries? Oh,
nothing was
nothing,
nuclear yet.
nothing's live yet. Okay,
Right?
okay.
Nothing was live yet.
All right. Okay, that's great. William Rawn and Associates Architects. So tell me something a little bit about the firm.
Sure. I mean, we're a 50-person firm.
Mhm,
We were founded in 1983 by Bill Rawn,
mhm,
and where I'm now one of 8 principals in the firm. And like we said before, I've been here for about 25 years. The firm uh, became most widely known, I suppose, to many people with Seiji Ozawa Hall, which you kind of mentioned before. That was interestingly our first project, a first concert hall, and somehow the BSO took a chance on us, and the project was wildly kind of successful. Our big break, and we've done about 40 projects, performing arts projects since then. And when I started at the firm, the building was just a couple years old.
Wow.
And there's still many people here in the office, of the Cliff and Doug, for example, who worked on that project. So.
Yeah, I just
But
actually just pulled that up too, and I wanted to share it as you were speaking on it there.
I mean, it introduced a number of principles that we've kind of riffed on and explored and developed over the years since. One is the kind of connection to the outdoors. The building has a big barn door opening to lawn seating behind, as you kind of see in that image. It also has natural light on all four sides, and natural ventilation. Again, before sustainability was something that is so integrated in architecture. We were thinking about ways that the kind of building and site related, and this building is a summer venue, and it does not have air conditioning. Just it relies on, for the audience, it has relies on sort of natural ventilation to keep the environment comfortable. And so that idea that you kind of, I think, can see here in this image of audience and performer inhabiting the same space, coming together in the same space with a kind of very close and intimate connection. We worked very hard on the physical dimensions of the room to kind of make it intimate. And this idea that the audience is surrounding the space means that as you're watching the performance, you're sharing. You can see, people's facial expressions, and when the orchestra kind of hits the right note, you can see, that the reaction that you're having, everyone else is sharing. So it's we think that creates a kind of special feeling of community, and we've tried to kind of take that idea and kind of expand it, make it even more palpable on our projects ever since.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you do a lot of that. That's a great project there. And on your company, just thinking about, I guess 2 years ago with COVID, how did you all fare as a company in that
Well,
whole
we,
process?
like many, we had to close the office with very little notice. We made the decision to do that maybe a few days before the state of Massachusetts, closed offices also, but we kind of did it first, trying to make sure that we were protecting everyone. And we found initially, we were very pleasantly surprised that it worked. We were able to collaborate both with our with our clients, as well as the staff in the office, and we were very able to be very productive. We work, as I mentioned, extensively in physical model, and we found ways to use cameras, and at some point in meetings, we kind of started off with multiple iPhones tapped into Zoom, and we were able to kind of show our clients the model from maybe 4 or 5 different camera positions kind of live during meetings. So we worked on that, and at the same time we really pushed ourselves to kind of learn new computer programs and new ways of working with virtual, getting our clients inside the digital model also. So we now have this facility to be sharing design progress in digital ways as well as in old-fashioned adaptable, flexible physical
Mm,
models, and we're kind of doing both.
mm,
I think in terms of the staff, we respect and feel very strongly that we like everybody to be together. Like, design
mm,
is still a collaborative process,
right.
and all voices on the team uh, need to be kind of part of that process, and we need to
Mm,
hear from both our staff members as well as our clients and the community members. And
mm,
so it we are kind of suggesting that we love and trying to encourage our staff to kind of be here in the
mm.
office, but at the same time we find we can be flexible.
Oh,
So we're not insisting, and we're acknowledging that everyone on the team has kind of different
mm.
needs for
So then,
childcare, and
oh yeah.
whether it's kind of childcare or long commutes, or and we have uh, some people who we've been able to retain, who otherwise would have needed to move to other cities. So it's a new
Mhm,
world, and we're kind of
mhm,
excited
mhm.
by what has happened, and the kind of positive impact that that's had on the way we work.
I guess it sped up the use of technology that
Right.
we've seen. 'Cause I know in my line of work with meetings, we used to have to travel to every meeting.
Right.
So we did a lot of traveling, a lot of flight miles. But now with Zoom and the other teams and the other software there, so we're starting to utilize it more. It sort of forced us into using it, and
Yeah, and as much as we all get tired of being in these little boxes,
yeah, yeah.
it allows for us to talk to more people, more potential building users. And when it comes to the community meeting process,
Mm,
there's more people that can participate. If you kind of think about the the whether it's a church basement or a school cafeteria, the public meetings
mm,
that were
yeah.
in person, engage only so many people who are willing to commit the time. But when you are able to kind of do that community process virtually, it includes a lot more
Mm,
of the community, and you hear more voices, which is very important.
yeah, yeah. So with your company, are you or how is it set up as far as design versus production? Do you all collaborate together, or is there one singular design architect and everyone else? How does it? What's the makeup of that?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. We're a firm that kind of believes in collaboration, and so
Okay.
a good idea can come from anywhere. The kind of senior principals all are heavily involved in design of their projects, um, but not in a way that we're kind of off in a room sketching
Mm,
and then kind of bringing back to the team, hey, here, let's do this. It's Design is a kind of a dialogue, a long dialogue over the course of months and years, and we look kind of iteratively, looking at sort of studies that have been done by various members of the team, evaluating them, discussing them, talking about the kind of merits, letting everyone kind of contribute, and then deciding to kind of move in a direction. And then when we bring those sort of ideas and suggestions and recommendations to the client, we kind of work in the same way. We
mm,
want to discuss the merits, and um, we try to make the tools flexible. I mentioned
mm,
physical models a couple of times, but the idea, and the hope is that a client or a building user is going to kind of try to describe an idea, and in fact reach over the table, pick up a model, reconfigure the scheme, and kind of show us what they're intending, and then we all are able to immediately have kind of feedback as to what the spatial implications are, um, of that idea. So um, back to kind of the office,
Mhm.
and the how we're organized. We don't have a design department in a production department, kind of quite deliberately on purpose. We arrange our teams. People move their desks around to be next to the rest of their collaborators, and the idea is you follow a project from beginning to end. And we want this to be a place where the designers at that are kind of the sort of people focusing on the design options early
Mhm.
know how to build. So, the
Okay.
fact that they can follow it through, and we, we work with other teams of architects
Mhm.
quite often, but we also do a large number of work where we're the design architect and the production architect, and we do our own sort of working drawings, and that means that just everybody knows how to put details together, and it's important, we think, that early on, those
Mhm.
that buildability is ingrained into the project, even as its you know organization is starting to come about.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense too. And you have nice designs, the projects that I've worked with you on and seen, and I guess that's super helpful, especially if you dealing with the budget challenges that, especially that's going on
Right,
now, 2003 since 2001. When you're able to change on the fly, so to speak, to get it within budget,
right.
your whole team is, I guess, is able to collaborate to make those changes. Uh,
And you touched on budget. I do want to make sure we that particularly here on your
yeah,
podcast,
yeah.
that we focus a lot on what it takes to get buildings built.
Mhm.
And we have very little sort of unbuilt work. We don't do design competitions. Most
Okay.
of our feasibility studies that we embark on end up moving into design phases and resulting in a built project. And we kind of attribute that to our kind of our early focus in the development of a project on budget. Like we like
Mhm.
to say, and we feel very strongly that at every meeting, uh, square footage, envelope area, and budget need to be part of the conversation. And
Mhm.
we want to reconcile issues of kind of program and budget,
Mhm.
very, very early, even before we
Mhm.
we start putting ideas to paper.
Right.
And if you're if you're not reconciled with budget, uh,
Mhm.
you know that project's not gonna move forward. And
Yeah, yeah.
that is that. And so again, we recognize that and feel very strongly about that. We began, back when the firm started. Our early experience was, we had a significant body of work in affordable housing, and
Mhm.
it taught us that, the importance of budget, and we learned ways of achieving designs that were special. I mean, these early affordable housing
Mhm.
projects, some of them won national AIA honor awards, and so we learned that you can reconcile
Mhm.
exciting, meaningful designs with tight, constrained budgets, and you do that by working with the client to understand what the priorities are. What are
Mhm.
the things that are most important to achieving their mission. That might be the way the building responds to its neighborhood. It
Yeah.
might be something programmatic, and it's different on one project versus another. And by being rigorous about that, flushing that out early, establishing what the kind of, maybe it's three goals
Mhm.
that the project is going to focus on, it allows you to then let the majority of the building be detailed in a way that's kind of relatively conventional, and not letting dollars get kind of spread
Mhm.
in places that aren't that important to the client's goals. and
Mhm.
and again, in the end, that concentration of the resources to the most important aspects of the mission, make sure that the mission is accomplished and that the building is
Mhm.
special.
Mhm. Now, I was interested that you said about the design competitions because I've gone to many websites of architectural firms, and you see so many projects that are listed,
Right.
but a lot of them haven't been built. So, and you go to your website and you see all of the buildings that you have under construction or have been built. So that's great.
Yeah, I think we may have two projects on our website that are unbuilt projects, and I
Yeah.
guess someone, I hope that, I don't know if that's true or not true, but I think it's true. And those are a couple of the recent projects
Right.
at RIT and at VCU
Yeah.
that we kind of want to talk about
Mhm.
a little bit here, as what's
Oh,
as the future. So
yeah, let me pull that up too, by the way. That's a
sure,
nice project. But before I get into that one, could you, because I met you originally on the Rubenstein, which
sure.
is a fantastic project. Have you been back there lately?
A number of
Mhm.
times, and it's that project, and others were, really kind of important ones for me in my career. And the Ruby, as it's called
Mhm.
colloquially,
Okay.
is an interesting project. When Duke came to us, um, their goal was to create a new type of performing arts building, one that is all about collaboration, and not just collaboration between visual artists and musicians and theater artists, but they wanted this building to engage scientists and
Mhm.
the medical community. And so Duke is known for interdisciplinary research in those
Mhm.
fields, and they wanted to kind of extend that to the arts. And so the building does not have specialized spaces. It doesn't have a proscenium theater, so to speak, but instead it has 14 spaces that are varied in scale, but they're all,
Mhm.
we call them studios, and they're highly flexible. Um,
Mhm.
one of the one of the interesting things about the development of the project is when normally when you are working on a building like this, you're talking to the potential, building users, asking them, what do you need in this space? What do you need in that space? And,
Mhm.
down to, in many cases, electrical outlets and cabinets and what shelving they need. There was no one to talk to in this in
Mhm.
this project for the most part. And that was a kind of a really interesting thing that we all had to wrap our heads around, is that
Mhm.
this building was meant to facilitate collaborations that and inspire sort of
Mhm.
collaborations that no one's ever done before. What is someone doing in this space? It may be a
Yeah.
dancer who has an idea about a project involving computer programmers and physicists, and bringing in who knows what kind of technologies to
Right. Right.
support
Mhm.
their research. And so we had to kind of be thinking about flexibility in a very sort of, like, we had to basically kind of create rooms
Mhm.
that allowed just about anything to happen. So these studios all uh, are kind of thought of in that way, that just anything
Mhm.
can happen loosely, in order to kind of be focused on budget kind of realities. We
Mhm.
kind of loosely have three types of spaces. Studios that are kind of thought to be for acoustic kind of collaborations,
Mhm.
spaces that are about whether it's sculpture or dirty type spaces, paint can splatter on the floor kind of thing,
Right. Right.
and then spaces that can sort of do sort of a little bit of both. And
Mhm.
um and but otherwise, these spaces are kind of blank canvases
Mhm.
to allow the program to
Mhm.
evolve and change,
Right.
whatever the building was kind of going to be doing when it opened was actually not clear. We didn't know what was happening in a lot of these studios while we were designing it. And we also embraced the mentality that whatever was happening in the building when the building opened, 5 years later, something else
Mhm.
might be happening. And the you know the Ruby has a very interesting website that
Mhm.
tracks what is going on, what has happened
Oh.
there in a robust way. And
Mhm.
we're kind of struck by a number of these collaborations are
Mhm.
sort of about the kind of diversity that the kind of that the community around Duke offers. And there are collaborative types of uh, productions that have happened
Mhm.
where artists kind of come in and basically take over the entire building. So
Mhm.
they may be rehearsing in one space, and they may be
Mhm.
creating and making in another space, and then performing in yet a third.
Right.
And they have multiple different types of performances even along the course of a kind of their time in the building. And just that
Mhm.
idea that
Mhm.
that Duke can kind of
Yeah.
invent and do thing, and students
Mhm.
can kind of move into the building and move into a space and do their own thing. And that the students themselves are able to
Mhm.
make the building their own is really exciting. So again, this
Yes.
it's an outward looking building, but
Mhm.
in terms of drawing its energy in, but it's
Yes.
about an unpredictable series of experiences within.
Yeah, yeah. And I love all the glass, it's so inviting. So, especially on a college campus, just to allow people to see. I can imagine them dancing in the in the rehearsal spaces here and over here on the left side, and just being invited to even if you're not even a part of that school, just coming in and taking a look.
Nat-
It's awesome.
Natural light is very something that is very important to us. We try to make the kind of spaces daylit from multiple
Mhm.
sides,
Yeah.
creating a performing arts building. I mean, these buildings have very big footprints.
Hmm.
Often, particularly the kind of performing arts centers from the 70s and 80s, but
Hmm.
even newer ones don't have a lot of kind of windows and connections to
Right.
their communities and campus. And
Right.
we have found ways to bring natural light, recognizing that most spaces, even a proscenium theater, are used for a lot of their a kind of high percentage of the time that these spaces are used. They're used for rehearsals or for set building or other things that can have light. And
Mhm.
we found ways to just ensure that yes, you can black out the rooms when need be, but at the same time let the users enjoy the views of campus and the natural
Mhm.
light at other times, and kind of make sure that these buildings are
Mhm.
presenting an inviting and kind of welcoming face to their communities.
Now, you mentioned cost and just winding down. You
Mhm.
did mention cost about in the budget that you have to deal with, and noticing all the glass, and it's nice
Right.
to look at, but it does add cost to the project. Ever since COVID, the price escalation, as you well know,
Right.
has gone just through the roof. How has it affected your design process, or has it affected your design process?
Well, I think we're kind of it makes it just even more kind of important to do what we've always done,
Hmm.
and which is to look at benchmark projects, be
Hmm.
thinking about cost early, and be building in very healthy contingencies, and then
Right.
to also be managing a series of conversations that we have closely
Hmm.
with our clients, to to once we kind of have that shared set of kind of values together, we can we can kind of we can adapt along the way as need be. But I think it's that kind of sound planning from the beginning that helps a project stay on track, even with kind of wide swings that we're seeing in the market right now. I mean, our project at RIT, I think, is a good example, and we're kind of working together now on VCU with this regard, and have been successful at reconciling the kind of building with with budget, despite pretty major escalation that has kind of we've kind of been talking about and dealing with together along the way. At RIT, there were early packages from early curtain wall procurement, early structural steel buys, and others that were really important in locking in the significant areas of the project budget before the escalation curve took off, and that was crucial to keeping that project on budget. So we're kind of experienced with the kind of nuances, and we just know that we need to be talking about budget all along the way, and just keeping track of it quite carefully.
Yeah, definitely. Just looking at this VCU project, this is a beautiful project. I mean, this is where that concert hall is on the third level here. Well, the fourth level, right? Because there's a basement.
Fourth level.
Yeah, fourth level. Yeah, I rode. I have family in Richmond, Virginia, so I remember driving down this road and taking a picture of that lot. And it's like, oh, there it is. There it is. That's where the new building is going. So it's a pretty tight area, tight site, but you're managing to fit what size is it? 212,000 square feet here.
Yes. So
there. Yeah.
VCU is a significant, significant project. We're very excited about it as, the next thing for us in terms of the scale. It is really a kind of vertical performing arts center. It's also similar to Duke. It's about collaboration in this case between VCU's School of the Arts disciplines. There's cinema, music, theater, and dance in the building, and there's also the VCU's research centers. So entrepreneurial, some of them arts based, and some of them kind of business and medical based, that will all inhabit the building together, and focus on the benefits that kind of creativity, this kind of creative energy that will happen in the building can, that the positive impact that can have on product development and bringing research projects to market. And so the building, you mentioned the kind of tight site, and so this is a large building on a tight urban site, and so it's a vertical assemblage of tall volume spaces. So you've got a concert hall that's essentially floating in the sky, 4 stories high, overlooking an important and very public corner in Richmond. Below that is a space that it's a kind of more than a lobby. It's a performance space and a presentation space, kind of in its own right, that we call the forum. And the kind of forum spills upward. The idea here is when people walk in the building, they immediately see, when you kind of walk in the scene maker space, which is a kind of new type of collaborative scene shop that will also be used by the entrepreneurs. Across the way are the research centers, and kind of directly kind of visible is the proscenium theater, as well as a theater rehearsal space. And so immediately you kind of walk in and you see a bunch of different kind of deliberately different activities, making all, different aspects of the creative process on display. And we asked ourselves early, along with kind of VCU, is, well, how do we make sure that that collaborative spirit infuses the entire building? We wanted to
Mhm.
make sure that upper floors weren't cut off from that vibe. And so you can see that the forum spills upward. We call this space the vertical collider. And again, as you move up, the public, moves up, in fact, through the building, through staircases to the concert hall lobby up on the fourth
Mhm.
floor.
Yeah.
All along the way, there's other kind of glimpses into the kind of energy of what's happening in the building. So
Mhm.
the building is inviting people in through its even the kind of energy of the way the facade sort of flows and curves
Mhm.
into the collider. And this has to be a destination for
Mhm.
the community, as well as the School of the Arts, to just use this building as a kind of a hangout, and
Mhm.
can
Yeah. Yeah.
attract and people from all over VCU's, which is an urban campus.
And just looking at the exterior, it reminds me of when we were putting the pricing together for it. To
Right.
you made it segmented instead of curved pieces. Thinking about budget, these panels being on segmented position, so it'll save money on the uh, unique panels and for the exterior facade. So that's awesome.
That's right. There are no special, pieces.
Mhm. Right.
We've talked, a lot on this project,
Yeah.
about the fact that nothing is actually curved, even though it,
Right. Here. Yeah. So.
it appears curved.
Yeah.
And so the materiality is actually quite straightforward. These are kind of relatively standard kind of curtain wall and metal pieces, but they're kind of put together in a way that is lyrical and kind of beautiful.
Mhm.
We recognize the power. You had another kind of image you shared earlier that was a little bit more perspectival than this, but the kind of power of the gentle curve, that helps to soften the kind of large building and
Mhm.
provide a sense of visual interest without us having to necessarily, add decoration to the project. It's just,
Mhm.
it's kind of very straightforward in its materiality, because its form is doing a lot of the legwork for it.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, this is
And I think here in the concert hall, you can kind of see uh, and this is something that is similar to Penn State
mhm.
in its approach to putting the special material, the wood, where it has the most impact, the balcony rail, for example, where people get close to it and are touching it, the floor and the ceiling, as two planes of warmth that kind of play off itself. And then
Mhm.
but a lot of the building is actually just simple planes of kind of plaster an acoustic material that are just allow the natural light that's kind of introduced to make the strongest impact.
Yeah, yeah, awesome, awesome. Well, I've enjoyed this conversation. I just want to ask you one other question here, or a couple other questions here, as far as if someone in someone wants to get into your field, architecture, what's the best route for them to go?
Well, there's two. I mean, I guess I would say even before, talk to lots of people, do a lot of research, try to understand. The profession is very varied, and
Mhm.
there's places sort of in it for people with kind of different. Um, there's some people that are interested in how things go together technically. There's sustainability. There's design. And so just talk to a lot of people, do a lot of research, try to understand, where, what kind of school is right for you, and I think do a lot of creative and effort, things like drawing and painting, and
Hmm.
even in high school or in undergraduate, as you're starting to kind of prepare a portfolio. But there's a couple different paths. I mean, as I
Hmm.
mentioned, I was focused. I wasn't about to wait, and
Yeah, yeah.
I did architecture undergrad, and then went back to grad school for a master's after that. So I have an undergrad degree in architecture and a graduate degree in architecture. And but many of my colleagues here at the firm, have you know either they knew they wanted to be an architect, but they
Hmm.
wanted another degree before that,
Hmm.
or they learned in undergraduate school or even a few years after, that they wanted to be an architect and kind of change. There's a number of us who have changed profession, if you will,
Yeah,
and so there's a bunch of different kind of avenues,
yeah, yeah.
and ways to get into the profession. So, um, but you certainly can, with an undergrad degree in just about anything, apply to architecture school, and that is a 3-year program at that point, typically.
Mhm. Hopefully, all of our professions can stay ahead of the AI, or
Right.
we can, or we can work with them, I guess. Start designing. We need to design a
Uh,
building, and it designs it by itself or something. I don't know.
I would think that, Chat GPT probably
Yeah,
can, figure out a way to
yeah,
design,
yeah.
uh, you know, a building, I suspect. But,
Uh,
there's so much, sort of individual, uh, responsiveness in the work that we do that,
mm,
I don't think,
yeah,
it will easily be, replaceable by AI,
right.
as we move forward.
Yeah, yeah. So finally, so what's next for you? I guess is VCU the next phase, or
Yeah, I
uh,
think VCU is one project that we're really looking forward to, down the road. And but this, I think we expect that we will continue to be pushing ourselves to innovate, and to try new things, and to we're excited by what we see in the kind of performing arts industry, of an increase in the interest in spaces that are flexible, highly flexible. I would say that flexibility balanced by a focus on operations and efficiencies there.
mm,
Um, these venues we expect, and art centers we expect to continue to be more and more inclusive
mhm,
in who and how they're kind of they're reaching out to, and kind of enticing to participate.
mhm,
I think they're bound to be increasingly sort of participatory. We're
mhm,
um, uh, interested in really kind of breaking the boundaries between audience and performer, in a way that inspire new types of kind of performances.
mhm,
Are there ways to kind of design facilities that allow new types of companies to kind of incubate, and new art forms to start to kind of form, even going so far as to say, that where the audience can kind of become a performer,
mhm, yeah,
or share the stage, if you will. And I think technology is uh, changing very, very rapidly, and we need to continue to be, find ways to allow, the technology to the buildings to incorporate sort of technology that is becoming more and more immersive,
mhm,
and to recognize that 5 years after the building opens, there may be new technologies that the building needs to accommodate and bring in. And so uh, that is going to be more and more a part of what we do in the future. and then lastly, we're working on a number of kind of projects that are looking to net zero, and we have done projects that are net zero. For example, civic complex for the city of Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I think it's really exciting to consider the future of a performing arts center with tall volume spaces, low velocity air systems, need for large amounts of ventilation to be highly sustainable. So we're kind of excited about where the ways the industry is changing. COVID certainly has had an impact on the industry, and seemingly is kind of reinforcing the importance of live performance. And so we're just excited to see where the industry kind of develops, and how excited to be kind of part of its development and change in the years to come.
Well, Kevin, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you taking some time out to share your experience. How can someone get in contact with you if they want a building designed, or somehow need to speak to you about some of the information that you have?
Sure. I mean, you shared our website, which is www.rawnarch.com, RAWNARCH. And my email is kbergeron, BERGERON @rawnarch.com.
Okay. Well, I appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll be talking soon on the other projects. So have a great day, Kevin.
All right. Thanks, Nakoto. This was fun.
Thank you. Thank you.